Hello Game fans, March is absolutely packed with fantastic games big and small, with some gritty action games, Metroidvanias, cozy games, roguelites, isometric action RPGs and so much more. So let's begin with Godstone, a roguelite platformer dungeon crawler in a dark fantasy world, where rumours of a powerful Godstone hidden beneath the ruined city of Palathian have sparked a war among kingdoms, clans and dynasties. If you love roguelites, definitely hang around since there's more to come, where in this game, you play as Garyon, a deserter seeking a better future, delving in solo to claim the Godstone before those who would misuse its power. There are massive bosses to battle, an upgrade system revolving around synergistic builds, and an evolving narrative depending on your actions, but of course I have to point out the pixel art since it just looks so good. And speaking of dungeon crawling action, Fate Reawakened takes you back to a classic with a fresh twist, bundling all 4 Fate games into one remastered package. Some of you in the comments have mentioned that this was like Diablo for kids, so perhaps a bit more of a family-friendly title, and does seem to have some Torchlight vibes with the world and even pets, and will be for fans of the genre, where I have 2 more ARPGs coming up that you don't want to miss. This video is brought to you by Do No Harm, a doctor simulator that combines ancient medical procedures with a Lovecraftian twist, immersing you in a world of horror and uncertainty. As the village doctor, you have to diagnose and treat patients using cryptic medical procedures, making decisions that impact not only their health but also your own sanity. The eldritch horror atmosphere of the game means that nightmarish entities and anomalies exist, with their presence warping reality, causing hallucinations, deceiving you about treatment results and affecting your sanity. It has a grander story about a proxy war between 2 cosmic deities in Azathoth and Cthulhu, where your decisions will influence the fate of the island village and humanity. You need to refer to your book of medicine to diagnose patients and select treatment, experimenting with remedies inspired by early modern medicine, hoping that they will work, or you will have to face the consequences. Your reputation among the villagers will be shaped by your diagnoses, treatments and decisions, leading to multiple endings, of which there are 12 in this game, with it structured as a 30 days period which you need to survive in an increasingly hostile environment. If this looks good, check out the free demo on Steam, which is available right now through the Steam Next Festival, wishlist the game and look forward to the release on 6 March 2025. I've chosen a number of interesting games as well, since at first glance, Mike Goes on a Hike sure does look like Death Stranding, but this is not a Strand game as far as I can tell, since there is no multiplayer component. Step into the boots of Mike, who goes on a hike through wild landscapes, on a quest to fulfill the request of your beloved grandfather, and honestly does look like a third-person walking sim. However, there are survival game elements, since you are pitching tents, sparking fires, cooking food, and managing hunger and fatigue, having to deal with the weather as well, since getting caught in the rain and having wet clothes will be detrimental to your health. There are also wild animals to deal with, so you have to avoid or run away from wolves or bears, or to go on the offense to hunt them for food, definitely being more involved than a simple walking sim. It looks kind of pretty as well in that Unreal Engine kind of way, where for the most part, it does look like you're spending time alone in nature, which does seem oddly calming. Hiking up a ridge for hours, or to just spend a few minutes taking in the scenery while you play, looking like a love letter to hiking, and seems like a different kind of game than we are used to, where Cheaters Cheetah instead is very much what we have seen before, being a sweaty, competitive multiplayer first-person shooter but with a twist, since it's a title where everyone has access to cheats. This includes wall hacks and aimbots, allowing you to see through walls to find your opponents, along with a bunch of other crazy game-breaking cheats. Now that the playing field is level, see who is the better player, having a variety of customization options for the match, such as wall hacks only, or where all cheats are unlocked, also having different game modes like deathmatch, a raid boss mode, where one super powered player faces off against the rest, and you can even use a band hammer to, I suppose, eliminate players from your game to see who is left standing, and looks crazy and weird and is so indie games, as is the case for Scarlet's City of Devils as well, a demon punk hack and slash Metroidvania in which you explore a demon-infested metropolis navigating a fractured society where demon clans vie for control over a powerful fountain. It is among this setup that a heroine emerges to attempt to heal the broken heart of the city, but this is the story of how you are trying to stop her, so you might not be the hero in this case. Combat is Souls-like in nature and will be more deliberate, having 6 weapons which allow you to access new areas as well as giving you more options in combat, having an interconnected world map and backtracking, and is a full-on Metroidvania experience, with a demo available to try right now so you can check it out, with a very different kind of game being Merchant 64, which I came across on Twitter, where this does not have a stated date and just has a March release window, but I sure hope it makes it to launch since it looks neat. This is a low poly 3D adventure that is of course inspired by the N64, where you play as a travelling merchant buying goods at low prices and selling them in different towns for profit. In that sense, this follows a long line of merchant trading simulation titles, but with a delightful visual style. It is supposed to be a short, cozy adventure with multiple endings, allowing you to visit various towns to get upgrades like a larger backpack or better shoes, enhancing your trading capabilities and unlocking new opportunities, with another game with a throwback art style but to another era being the simply titled Gnomes. Last seen in my video on upcoming tower defense games, in which you deploy your team of gnomes to defend your garden and your crops from waves of goblins, having a sick 8-bit pixel art style which I really do like. Each day, the map expands deeper into goblin territory, unveiling new threats and resources where you have to strategically adapt and position your gnomes, prepare your defenses, and to continue to cultivate crops and your economy to withstand nightly assaults. There is a roguelite structure to the game, so the levels are procedurally generated and will be fresh every playthrough, with progression in the form of unlocking various gnome guilds with different starting advantages from run to run, also having an endless or survival mode with increasingly difficult enemy waves, and looks like it's for fans of the genre, with a very weird title being ANEURISM 4, a first-person simulation title of sorts, which is difficult to explain but I'll try my best, where you play as a character in a dystopian city teetering on the brink of collapse, and your choices will directly influence its fate. You play as a spirit, a spectral entity on the verge of becoming flesh and bone, being able to play as a hardworking prole, aka proletariat for the working class scrounging a meager living, or as an affluent banker character, being able to align with various factions within the city, such as the Cortex to stabilize and protect the city, or to join the scumbags or zealots to spread chaos. Or you could just remain neutral and engage in daily life activities. The city dynamically reacts to your actions, with the pervasive threat of the rot visibly altering environments where, if left unchecked, will consume the city. Most interestingly, this is multiplayer for some reason, so you can imagine the utter chaos when multiple people are involved in this sandbox, looking like some sort of dystopian industrial nightmare simulator, so I'm very interested to see the reception to this game and what might come out of its community. But going back to something more traditional is Gal Guardian's Servants of the Dark, a not-so-indie title since it comes to us from Japanese developer Inti Creates, but they are one of the bigger teams still making pixel art side-scrollers, so of course I have to give them a mention, where this is a Metroidvania set in a gothic-inspired demon realm, centering on 2 demon maid sisters on a quest to revive their master, Demon Lord Maxim, adventuring across this realm and battling demons and demon hunters alike. If this sounds familiar, that is because this is the second entry in the franchise, the first being Gal Guardian's Demon Purge, where you played as the Demon Hunter sisters, so this gives you perspective from the other side, with the returning feature of having both characters on screen at the same time, even in single player, being interesting. You can seamlessly switch between the two characters, either using demonic guns or whip, depending on the situation, with the other character then being controlled by the CPU or another player in co-op with a revive mechanic as well. This game emphasizes exploration with hidden passages, trapdoors, and puzzles scattered throughout the expansive map, with character progression and fantastic pixel art as well, and is one to watch, with a decidedly different kind of game being Mudborne Frog Management Sim, where somehow frogs have gotten grouped into cozy games for some reason, despite, being frogs. This is a casual nature management sim that lets you discover and breed frogs, where you awaken from hibernation to find your pond abandoned and empty, and it's up to you to restore it to its former glory. To do this, you need to experiment with genetics, crafting, and puzzle solving to create new frog species and to unlock the secrets of the waking and dreaming worlds. As you progress, you'll be able to catch and eat bugs, grow and cultivate mushrooms, and even genetically modify frogs to create weird and wonderful species, some of which will even have tiny hats. But it is not all about creating new species, since you also need to use your frogs to uncover secrets and to power your machines, uncovering the mystery of what happened, and looks neat in a manner similar to Apico. And speaking of cozy games, Wanderstop might be of note. A narrative-centric title with a twist in which you're doing life sim stuff in terms of gameplay, but in the context of being employed at a quaint little tea shop in a magical forest. However, our protagonist is Elta, a former championship fighter who, after a devastating defeat, finds herself here of all places, engaging in the daily ritual of tea making, cultivating and harvesting ingredients, mastering a unique brewing contraption, and serving a diverse array of travelers who frequent your establishment. This emphasizes themes of change and personal growth, since every patron brings their own stories and challenges, offering opportunities for meaningful interactions and connections. As we go along for the ride on how Elta deals with her own inner demons, there are opportunities for reflection and tranquility, since you can simply sit on a bench and breathe, and looks like an extension of something like Coffee Talk with the gameplay mechanics, but is in a similar sort of space. Back to action titles with Dragonkin the Banished, an isometric action RPG that puts you in a world tainted by the corrupting blood of dragons, where you play as one of three unique heroes: the resilient knight, the mystical oracle, or the formidable barbarian, adding a pet system and city building elements to the classic genre. Each character offers unique abilities and combat styles, allowing for varied gameplay experiences, with their ancestral grid system being of note, in place of a traditional skill tree, and does look interesting since you can move skills around to modify your attacks and abilities. As you traverse diverse environments, from dense jungles to ancient ruins, you engage in dynamic battles against draconic monsters, each presenting their own unique brand of challenge, with the game's world changing based on the decisions that you make. This will have co-op multiplayer support, but also solo play, and looks great, but do note that it will be an early access release, and does come to us from the developer of Warhammer Chaos Bane, which is another action RPG that currently sits at mixed reviews, so know that going in, with another early access release of interest being Chernobylite 2 Exclusion Zone, the follow-up to a popular title from 2021, and similarly is a post-apocalyptic survival action-adventure RPG that places you in the hauntingly realistic open world of the Chernobyl Exclusion Zone. You play as a planeswalker traversing parallel worlds in pursuit of the high-energy material known as Chernobylite, but you get cut off from the outside world and are trapped in the zone, besieged by hordes of nightmarish creatures, so you need to fight to survive, exploring, scavenging, and adapting in the process. The game seamlessly blends free exploration with challenging combat, requiring a strategic approach to situations along with quick reflexes when the shooting starts, with the expected crafting systems for a game like this, along with a team and base management aspect which is similar to the first game. The non-linear storytelling ensures that your choices have significant consequences, influencing both the narrative and the world around you, such as allying with certain factions or to pursue personal vendettas. It looks great as well, and has features like a day-night cycle, where the original continues to be popular and this looks to be as well, and continuing on the action train is AI Limit, an anime-looking sci-fi Souls-like RPG coming out of PlayStation's China Hero project, which is set in a post-apocalyptic world teetering on the brink of extinction. You play as Orisa, an immortal blader, exploring the desolate city of Heavenswell, humanity's last bastion. Bladers in this world appear human, but are actually a new life form created by mysterious technology, so some sort of clone or homunculi, who are tied to something known as branches, which are scattered all around the city, using these to respawn after death. However, branches have become destroyed, so you need to search for and repair these, which I'm guessing would be the bonfire equivalent, having intense, deliberate combat against monstrous bosses, which includes giant machines, in addition to enemies of the eldritch variety. It should have many of the RPG and progression systems that Souls-like games are known for, and while anime Dark Souls aka Code Vein has been done before, there is plenty of appetite for a game like this, so let's see how it does with yet another action title of note being Hordes of Hunger, a 3D action survivors-like game that challenges you to survive escalating waves of grotesque monsters, including undead, disfigured and demonic adversaries. You play as Mira, a formidable warrior determined to defend her homeland from an insatiable, otherworldly force known as the Beast and its relentless hordes, where if you played games like Vampire Survivors, you will know what to expect, where part of the appeal of such titles is the ability to mow down enemies by the hundreds with your overpowered attacks and abilities. However, being a third-person hack-and-slash title does change up the gameplay, adding verticality and height to consider as well, especially in terms of level design, where you're supposed to use choke points, high ground and destructible structures to provide tactical advantages against the overwhelming enemy forces. Combat is intense and bloody, demanding strategic use of a diverse arsenal of weapons and special attacks, with the ability to customize your loadout and to craft a playstyle that suits your approach. You can rescue other survivors, each offering unique benefits and contributing to the unfolding narrative, so maybe similar to Halls of Torment, but appears to have a more fleshed out narrative about the mysterious origins of the curse plaguing your land, and looks great, with a different kind of third-person action RPG being Gandonia 2, the follow-up to a popular game from 2022 but seems to have improved on the visuals and also, excitingly, added online co-op support with new enhanced features and should be a richer gameplay experience as compared to the first game. With support for up to 4 players, the game allows you and your friends to explore a vibrant, living open world teeming with adventure, where freedom is the name of the game, since you can explore in any direction that you want. Character customization is a focus, allowing for the creation of unique builds tailored to individual playstyles, whether you prefer mastering magic, honing melee combat skills, or exploring crafting professions. The world is dynamic and responsive, so your decisions and actions will have tangible consequences, but seems to be otherwise more of a sandbox kind of experience, where you are exploring to see what's there, taking on handcrafted quests, crafting items, building up your base and more, but will be an early access release, so I'll keep an eye on it for now, with a title coming out of early access being Cataclysmal. This launched in early access in July 2024, so it's a relatively short 8-ish months or so, but has made an impact already, being a real-time strategy cross-city building title where you're able to construct your own fortress brick by brick. You're tasked with leading the last remnants of humanity in a post-apocalyptic world, pushing back the mist and reclaiming territory that was once yours, where of course, the mist hides horrible monsters which you need to battle. The construction system is unique since stacking blocks of stone actually reinforces those below due to the weight, but you need to be mindful of key structural columns since the destruction of these could cause your walls to collapse. Resource management is crucial since by day, you must gather materials, train troops, and invest in technological advancements to enhance your defenses, but by night, your stronghold comes under assault by waves of enemies which you need to fight off. There are various biomes, each presenting unique architectural challenges and environmental hazards, with the 1.0 release adding the final act of the campaign, a complete overhaul of survival mode, and much more. Love indie games? Sign up to my newsletter to get a weekly dose of what's hot, along with some news and of course, weekly game giveaways, so if interested, link is in the description below. Another action title of interest is Rainbreaker, an action roguelite. I know, I can hear some of you sighing right now, but one which is set in a dystopian medieval punk world where you step into the boots of Clef, a fearless rebel determined to overthrow the oppressive kingdom. It does look like Hades in spots due to the art style and emphasizes fast-paced combat and strategic gameplay. Armed with a versatile javelin, you engage in combat against hordes of high-tech medieval machines and elite soldiers, with the expected procedural generation ensuring that each run feels fresh in terms of unique challenges, enemy types, and environmental hazards. As you progress, you can plunder resources to upgrade your equipment, unlock new abilities, and customize your playstyle with themes of rebellion and social upheaval, as our protagonist fights against systemic corruption and class divide. Nothing too crazy or new here, but it looks sick and will be one to watch, as will be Rainworld the Watcher, the second paid DLC to the cult classic title following Rainworld Downpour, adding a new playable character known as the Watcher and what appears to be an entirely new area. The living ecosystem of the original game was praised, with the obtuse but intriguing game mechanics leaving people scratching their heads, but once it clicked, players absolutely loved this game, so a DLC strategy makes sense but is interesting nonetheless, in place of a full-on sequel, so who knows what secrets this DLC will hold, and the community is very eager to find out. And speaking of games with cult-like followings, I have to mention Psycho Patrol R as well, since this is the next title from the developer of Cruelty Squad, a game that is pretty rough on the eyes, where this too is a first-person shooter with some immersive sim influences. It self-describes as an FPS/mecha hybrid Euro police sim, whatever that means, where you play as an officer in a specialized unit tasked with countering psycho-hazard operations and preventing neural meltdowns, since the battleground of the 21st century is the human brain. There's a bunch of gibberish on the store page, such as to solve the mystery of the Orgone, so I really don't know what to expect of a game like this, but based on the pedigree, there is interest in this, and hey, I'm glad that something like this can exist in the wide world of indie games, truly providing something for everyone. But back to a more conventionally nice looking title in Grit and Valor 1949. A diesel punk real-time tactics roguelite set in an alternate history where World War II continues into 1949 and Europe is on its knees. The Axis forces have developed mech technology and are using it to dominate the battlefield, where you play as the Resistance, the last hope of the free world, having the grand mission of delivering an EMP weapon into the heart of enemy territory to turn the tide of war. The core gameplay revolves around deploying and commanding mechs in real time to fend off waves of enemies, utilizing terrain advantages, exploiting enemy weaknesses, and defending your command vehicle. Strategic positioning and quick decision making are essential to withstand assaults and to complete mission objectives, complicated, of course, by the randomly generated battlefields and the features of each biome. If the command vehicle is destroyed, the mission ends, prompting players to regroup, rebuild, and redeploy with upgraded squads, using Valor to level up pilot abilities and Scrap to upgrade the mechs, giving you a better chance the next time around. Where this did look like an RTS title to me, but they are going with real-time tactics, but either way, this looks very promising, as is Metal Bringer, an action roguelite with a sick art style, being the follow-up to Samurai Bringer, but with a different theme. it might look to be inspired by Vampire Survivors, but if their first game is any indication, it might be drawing more upon Dynasty Warriors, where you control humanoid androids known as Labor and giant machines called Arms, using these to battle enemies and to uncover the mysteries of the world. I love me some giant mechs, so this was immediately of interest since it emphasizes customization, allowing you to extensively modify the mechs, equipping various parts to suit different playstyles. There is meta progression and carryover systems, so a modern roguelite in that sense, but the real-time pixel art generating system and ray tracing results in this awesome visual style that I cannot get enough of and is of interest, where going old school we have Tower of Clement, an isometric action RPG with a throwback look, whose most direct comparison and inspiration would be Diablo 1. But they also cite Throne of Darkness, so if you grew up with those games, this will certainly appeal to your nostalgia. This gothic action RPG harkens back to the slower paced, high tension gameplay of older titles as compared to the ability spam and flashing lights of modern entries, in which you have to ascend the titular tower facing off against a variety of foes including demons, undead warriors and cultists. This game features randomly generated dungeons, ensuring that each playthrough offers a unique experience with varying room layouts, rewards and enemies, which is similar to Diablo 1 and is not a roguelite in that sense. Their classless character progression system is of note, allowing players to equip any item, cast any spell, or perform any combat feat, provided they have the necessary stats, where this flexibility enables a high degree of customization, catering to various playstyles and strategies, mixed in with a deep itemization system which introduces mystical rare items that can grant new skills, spells, or alter stats. There's a combat arts system as well, where equipping different weapons and shields unlock specific skills like a block or deflect projectile in the simplest of instances. This seems to be old school tough as well, since potions are scarce, vendors are limited, and there's no town to return to for resupply. Where I'm not sure what happens when you die, if you reload from a save, have to start over with a new character, or if there is any carryover, where I'm guessing that is the middle option due to how they describe the game, but Diablo 1 is close to my heart, which makes this of note, with an unconventional take on the action RPG being Everhood 2, the follow-up to another indie hit, this time combining rhythmic combat with a surreal narrative. You embark on a transcendental journey, engaging in musical battles set to over 100 original songs, with a dynamic battle system where timing and movement are key. Players need to dodge melodic attacks and to counter with their own rhythmic strikes, so while it looks like a rhythm game, this isn't one in the traditional sense. The narrative unfolds across various interdimensional realms, each with unique characters and challenges, including encounters with figures like Joan of Arc, and is definitely weird and quirky, almost Undertale-like in that sense. There are various weapons to get and upgrade, each with distinct abilities, and simply looks cool and weird, and I cannot wait to check it out. The same can be said for this turn-based tactics roguelite title, since it is the follow-up to the very popular Fights in Tight Spaces, but instead of controlling a single John Wick-like character, you are instead controlling a party of 3 in the medieval world of Knights in Tight Spaces. Similarly, this has a card-based system for attacks and abilities, where you need to synergize between party members and to combo attacks together, having a sick look and great animations, and is possibly Game of the Year material. Watch this video for more strategy roguelites.